Picture this. You're at work, doing your job with pride, when suddenly your boss mocks the way you speak, loud enough for everyone to hear. The room falls silent. All eyes are on you. Your heart races. Your face burns with humiliation. What do? This is exactly what happened to Malik Thompson, a young black waiter in one of Chicago's most prestigious restaurants. His crime? Speaking with a southern accent that reminded him of home, of his grandmother's stories, of where he came from. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming, especially not his boss. There was someone else in that dining room. Someone powerful. Someone watching every single moment unfold. Drop a comment right now if you've ever been judged for something you couldn't control, because what happened next will restore your faith in justice. Let me take you back to where it all began. Malik Thompson wasn't just any waiter. He was a dreamer with a work ethic that could move mountains. Every morning, he'd straighten his bow tie in the mirror of his small studio apartment and remind himself his grandmother's words. "Baby, carry yourself with dignity, no matter what room you walk into." Those words were his armor. He grew up in a modest neighborhood, raised by a grandmother who'd lived through segregation, through struggle, through times when speaking up could cost you everything. She'd tell him stories about their South Carolina roots, tales of resilience, of family, of a culture rich with warmth and soul. That heritage lived in Malik's voice, in the gentle lilt of his accent that carried generations of strength. At the Keystone Grill, one of Chicago's most upscale restaurants, Malik was known for something special. Regulars would request his section specifically. Why? Because when Malik served you, you didn't just get a meal, you got genuine warmth. He remembered birthdays, asked about families, made people feel seen in a world that often looked right through service workers. Mrs. Patterson, a regular who came every Thursday, once told him, "Malik, you make this place feel like home." That's who Malik was. Professional, kind, hardworking. He dreamed of one day managing his own establishment, creating spaces where people felt valued, where staff were respected, where someone's background was celebrated, not criticized. But dreams don't always unfold smoothly. And working at the Keystone Grill came with a shadow that grew darker each day. A shadow that wore expensive suits and spoke in condescending tones. A shadow named Gerald Hawthorne. The truth was, not everyone at the Keystone Grill appreciated Malik's presence. And one man in particular had made that painfully clear. Gerald Hawthorne owned the Keystone Grill, and he never let anyone forget it. He was a man who wore his privilege like a medal. Old money, elite education, connections that opened doors before he even knocked. To Gerald, the world operated on a very specific hierarchy, and he sat comfortably at the top. He had particular ideas about what professionalism looked like. It looked like him, sounded like him, came from the same background as him. Anything different? That was a problem to be fixed. Malik's southern accent grated on Gerald's nerves from day one. During staff meetings, Gerald would interrupt Malik mid-sentence with exaggerated confusion. "I'm sorry, what was that? Could you repeat that in English?" he'd say, smirking as other staff members shifted uncomfortably. Behind closed doors, it was worse. "We cater to sophisticated clientele," Gerald told the floor manager once, loud enough for Malik to overhear. "Our staff should sound the part. That country drawl doesn't exactly scream five-star dining." The message was clear. Malik's voice, his heritage, the very essence of who he was. It wasn't good enough for Gerald's establishment. Have you ever worked for someone who made you feel small? Someone who confused cruelty with leadership? Drop a comment and let us know, because you're not alone. Malik absorbed these daily humiliations with quiet strength. He kept his grandmother's words close. He focused on the customers who appreciated him. He told himself it would get better. But some storms don't just pass. Sometimes they break right over your head. It was a Tuesday evening, unusually slow for the Keystone Grill. The kind of night where every sound echoed a little louder, every conversation a little clearer. Malik moved through his section with practiced ease, checking on his few tables, ensuring water glasses stayed filled, anticipating needs before they were voiced. Table 7 had ordered a bottle of wine, a 2015 Bordeaux that Malik retrieved from the cellar with care. He approached the table, Two businessmen deep in conversation, and began to pour with a precision he perfected over years of service. "Gentlemen, your Bordeaux," Malik said warmly, his southern accent carrying the same genuine hospitality it always had. "This vintage has notes of—" "I can't understand you with that accent." The voice cut through the restaurant like glass shattering on marble. Gerald Hawthorne stood 5 feet away, arms crossed, his face twisted with disdain. He'd been passing through the dining room, and apparently decided this was the perfect moment to make his feelings public. "This isn't some backwater joint," Gerald continued, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "We have standards here." Time seemed to stop. The businessmen at table 7 looked up, shocked. Other diners turned toward the commotion. Staff members froze mid-step, unsure whether to intervene or disappear. The entire restaurant held its breath. Malik stood there, wine bottle still in hand, feeling every eye in that room burning into him. His heart hammered against his ribs. His face grew hot. 1,000 responses flooded his mind. Angry words, righteous defenses, the urge to walk out with his dignity intact. But he didn't. Instead, Malik took a slow breath. He thought of his grandmother, of the dignity she'd maintained through far worse. He set the wine bottle down carefully, turned to businessmen with a professional smile that must have cost him everything, and said quietly, "My apologies for any confusion, gentlemen. Please enjoy your evening." Then he walked toward the kitchen, head high, shoulders straight, refusing to let Gerald see him break. What Malik didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have known, was that someone else in that dining room had witnessed the entire exchange. Someone who wasn't just watching, someone who was taking notes. But what Malik didn't know would change his life forever. Thomas Radcliffe didn't look like a billionaire that evening. That was intentional. Dressed in a simple button-down and slacks, no flashy watch, no designer labels, Thomas sat alone at table 12 in the corner. To any observer, he was just another customer enjoying a quiet meal. That's exactly what he wanted. As the founder and CEO of Radcliffe Hospitality Group, a luxury hotel empire spanning 3 continents, Thomas had learned a crucial lesson early in his career. You never truly know a business until you see it when nobody knows you're watching. So once a quarter, he'd visit establishments incognito, evaluating potential partnerships, assessing operations, observing how staff treated customers when management thought nobody important was looking. Tonight, he'd been observing the Keystone Grill for a potential collaboration, and he'd been particularly impressed by one waiter. The young man with a southern accent had served Thomas earlier that evening. There was something genuine about him, something you couldn't train or fake. He'd noticed how Thomas's water glass never quite reached empty, how he'd recommended the salmon without being pushy, how he'd treated Thomas with the same warmth he showed the couple celebrating their anniversary 2 tables over. Real hospitality wasn't about memorizing scripts. It was about making people feel valued. This waiter understood that intuitively. Then Thomas witnessed the public humiliation. He watched the young waiter's face as the owner's words landed, saw the moment of internal struggle, witnessed something remarkable. Instead of reacting with anger or walking out, the waiter chose grace, chose professionalism, chose to finish his job with dignity, despite being torn down in front of strangers. Thomas had worked in hospitality for 30 years. He'd managed thousands of employees across dozens of properties. And in that moment, watching that young waiter walk away with his head held high, Thomas saw something rare, genuine character under pressure. He also saw something else, a terrible leader destroying good talent through ego and prejudice. Thomas Radcliffe made a decision right then. If you're loving this story, smash that like button right now, because this is about to get really good. Malik stood in the kitchen, hands gripping the edge of the steel counter, breathing slowly. He could hear his pulse in his ears. The shame burned hot behind his eyes, but he refused to let the tears fall. Not here. Not now. "Hey, Malik." One of the servers approached cautiously. "There's someone asking for you. Table 12. Says it's important." Malik's stomach dropped. Just what he needed. A complaint to cap off the worst night of his professional life. He straightened his vest, schooled his features into something approaching calm, and walked back into the dining room. The man at table 12 was perhaps 50, with salt and pepper hair and an understated presence. He stood as Malik approached, extending his hand. "I'm Thomas," he said simply. "Thomas Radcliffe. Do you have a moment to talk? Privately?" Something in the man's tone suggested this wasn't a complaint. Confused but curious, Malik glanced toward the kitchen, then nodded. "Of course, sir. We can step outside." They walked to the restaurant's private patio, empty in the cool evening air. Malik braced himself for whatever was coming. "I want to start by saying I saw what happened in there," Thomas began. "And I want you to know the way you handled that situation was extraordinary." Malik blinked, caught off guard. "Sir, Let me finish," Thomas said gently. "I've been in the hospitality industry for 3 decades. I've managed teams across the world, worked with thousands of employees. What I witnessed tonight wasn't just professionalism. It was character, dignity under fire, the kind of quality that's impossible to teach." He pulled out a business card, pressing it into Malik's hand. "I'm the CEO of Radcliffe Hospitality Group. We operate luxury hotels internationally. I'm opening a new flagship property here in Chicago next quarter, and I need someone to manage the dining services. Someone who understands that real hospitality comes from the heart. Someone who treats every guest with genuine warmth. Someone exactly like you." Malik stared at the card, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. "I'm offering you a position," Thomas continued. "Head of dining services. Competitive salary, full benefits, and the opportunity to build something meaningful, to create the kind of environment where talent is valued, where people are respected for who they are, not judged for where they come from." Malik's voice came out rough, barely a whisper. "Why? You don't even know me." Thomas smiled. "I know enough. I saw how you treated me earlier, with kindness and attentiveness, even though I was just another customer. I saw how you maintained your composure when your boss tried to humiliate you. And I know that the way someone acts when things go wrong tells you everything about their character." He paused, his expression growing more serious. "I also grew up in Alabama, Malik. Spent years working to lose my accent because people told me I'd never be taken seriously otherwise. It took me decades to realize that my background wasn't weakness. It was my strength. The warmth, the hospitality, the genuine connection with people. That came from my roots, just like yours do." Tears finally broke free, streaming down Malik's face. He didn't bother to hide them. "I'm honored, sir," he managed. "I accept." Thomas shook his hand firmly. "Welcome to the team. And Malik, your accent? Don't ever change it. It's perfect exactly as it is." And Gerald? He had no idea what he'd just lost. 2 weeks later, Malik walked into the Keystone Grill for the last time. He wore a new suit, his first purchase with the signing bonus Thomas had insisted he accept. He'd come to deliver his resignation letter personally. Gerald barely glanced up from his desk when Malik entered. "Make it quick," he muttered. "I'm giving my notice," Malik said simply, placing the envelope on the desk. "I've accepted a position elsewhere." Gerald snorted. "Good luck finding something better than this. Not many places will overlook that accent issue." Malik smiled, a real smile this time. "Actually, the CEO of Radcliffe Hospitality Group specifically hired me because of who I am. I'll be managing dining services at their new Chicago flagship." Gerald's head snapped up. The color drained from his face. "Radcliffe? Thomas Radcliffe." "The same," Malik confirmed. "He was here that Tuesday night. Saw everything." What Malik didn't mention, what he learned later, was even sweeter. Thomas had been considering a partnership with the Keystone Grill, a collaboration that would have brought prestige and significant revenue. After witnessing Gerald's behavior, Thomas had his team send a brief email. Partnership no longer under consideration. Gerald's attempt to apologize, to backtrack, to suddenly recognize Malik's potential came too late and rang hollow. Malik had already moved on. At his new position, Malik thrived. He built a team culture based on respect, where diverse backgrounds were celebrated as assets. His southern warmth became the signature of Radcliffe's Chicago property, with guests specifically commenting on the genuine hospitality that set the hotel apart. His grandmother, when he called with the news, cried happy tears. "Baby," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "you made me so proud. Not because you got a fancy new job, but because you never let that man make you forget who you are." What would you have done in Malik's situation? Would you have stayed professional or walked out? Drop a comment and let us know. Here's what Malik's story teaches us. Your voice matters. Your background, your heritage, the very things that make you different. Those aren't flaws to be hidden. They're superpowers waiting to be recognized by the right people. Gerald saw Malik's accent as a problem. Thomas saw it as an asset. The difference? One looked at surface appearance. The other looked at character. You never know who's watching. You never know when staying true to yourself, when choosing dignity over anger, when refusing to shrink yourself to fit someone else's narrow expectations, will open a door you never even knew existed. Stay professional. Stay proud. Stay you. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button right now. Ring the notification bell so you never miss these powerful real-life inspired stories. And share this with someone who needs to hear today, someone who's been made to feel small for being themselves. Next time, we're bringing you another incredible story of unexpected justice. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember, your story matters. Never let anyone tell you otherwise.